Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I guess we can continue while waiting for Dr. Jamil to come in. Prof. Malik Badri is already here. And I think, Alhamdulillah, we begin with Al-Fatiha. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim. Amin. In the blessing month of Ramadan, today, Alhamdulillah, we for the 23rd Ramadan, and we have honored to have Prof. Dr. Malik Badri all the way from Istanbul, and we have also guests from speakers from other part of the world. If not the second, they are Dr. Safia Abdul Aziz from Perth, Australia. I'm not sure. Can you say something, Dr. Safia? And for you have Prof. Abdul Fadil Mohsin from South Africa, University of KwaZulu, Dr. Safira Dragonovic from the University of Sarajevo, and Associate Professor Dr. Masura Baziz, now from IUM, now in Oman. And then also Professor Dr. Shukran Rahman, Dean of Living Knowledge for IUM. So we have, I'm not sure, we should invite Prof. Malik Badri first. Then we're going to invite others to respond. I think I don't want to introduce Prof. Malik Badri, not because, but I think he's a very well-known speaker. Today we reached the record 448 participants now. Our limit is 500 participants. So hopefully we don't reach, not hopefully, if we meet the record 500, we have to subscribe more for Zoom. So without further ado, I would like to invite Prof. Malik Badri to give a talk. Tafadhal, Sheikh.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much indeed, Brother Fawzan. It's really a pleasure to be talking to you. And I should thank the brothers in IIIT for re-inviting me. I would like first, before I start, to say that in my last talk, I mentioned that some of the problems that are going to surface, psychological problems after this pan-epidemic, is that there will be an explosion of psychological disorders. Mainly, some of them would be like obsessive compulsive disorder. This have been, I just want to say that I have received from a brother, a Turkish brother. He said that his own nephew is, from the very beginning, he has a problem of staying for about 20 minutes or so in the bathroom to be sure that he has washed his hands well also. So he was rather obsessional before Corona. He said to me, now after the pan-epidemic, he stays for at least 2 hours or 3 hours in the bathroom, washing and washing and washing. So it is really now of interest to see that what we have said is he confirmed what we said. Another issue, I think last time I mentioned that there may be some form of discrimination. There may be some form of against certain groups of people in some countries. Already now, I understand from the reading in the internet that the Chinese in England, in Britain, are running through a very difficult time. People consider them the source of the epidemic, and they segregate against them. The same thing is happening, of course, in India already. It is there. It's happening in In Saudi, they have kicked out hundreds of Somalis and hundreds of Ethiopians from the country. It's very interesting. The Egyptians in Kuwait. I mean, these are issues which we just mentioned like this offhand, but it seems that it's true. It's happening. So let us hope for the best, inshallah. May Allah clear this pandemic, and may Allah, as in Surah Al-Dukhan, اللهم اكشف عنا العذاب إنا مؤمنون. اللهم اكشف عنا العذاب. Please remove this pain, this adab, this punishment that we are going through today. The subject of today is about a book that I have written. It is not yet published, and the material is still being rearranged, about the emotions of prophets, emotional life of prophets, with an emphasis on the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, hikmat Allah in whatever happens to the prophets, particularly even their emotions, the way they respond emotionally is also part of the creation of Allah in them. And we see in the Quran that Allah created prophets with different, have a lot higher individual differences in emotionality. And this is very interesting. They are human beings, and at the same time, they are prophets and messengers of Allah. So the whole idea is, what are the importance? First, let me say, what is the importance of emotions? What is the importance of the affective side? What is the importance of feelings in ibadah? And I want to assure myself and you that Allah has not made us slaves only with our rationality, with our mind, but also with our heart, also with our feelings. And those of you who are students of psychology know that for every phenomenon, psychological phenomenon that happens, there are generally three important mahawir, we call them, three important aspects making them. That is the cognitive aspect, and secondly, the practical or behavioral aspect, and thirdly, the affective or emotional aspect. These are the three main things that you will see in all psychology textbooks. But we add a fourth element to it, the spiritual dimension. So here we are. We can make ibadah to Allah with our reason. We look at the heavens, we look at the creation on earth, and we deduct that there must be only one God, since everything in the universe is made of electrons and protons and atoms and molecules. It must be one, La ilaha illallah, wahdahu la sharika lah. So in this sense, we are using our contemplation, our thinking, but then the feeling is important also. Love of Allah, fear from the punishment of Allah. These are important aspects. I think that I want to take you to a hadith of the Prophet that explains these three or four aspects very clearly. The hadith is narrated by Bukhari and is supported by Umar ibn al-Khattab. He says, Umar, we were sitting with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then suddenly a man gets in. The man is very fair in color, is handsome, has very black hair, and he comes and sits in front of the Prophet. His knees touching the knees of the Prophet, and his palms of his hands on the thighs of the Prophet. And he says, "Oh Muhammad, tell me, what is Iman?" And the Prophet answers, Iman is belief in God, in Allah, in His angels, in His books, in His Rusul, His messengers. Speaks about here we are talking about the cognitive. We are talking about information that everybody should have, which forms into aqidah, into belief. So here is the first, it is like the base of the building. It's like the cornerstone. And then he said to him, yes, after the Prophet answers, he said, yes, you are right. Now tell me, what is Islam? And then Islam, he goes on to say, Islam is fast, Ramadan is to say your prayers, is to go to Hajj whenever you have the ability to do it. So here the Prophet is talking about the practical, the behavior. And then he says, Sadaqt, you said the truth. And then he asked the Prophet a third question. What is ihsan? What is ihsan? And the Prophet answers, ihsan is to worship Allah as if you actually see Him. Because if you don't see Him, He's seeing you all the time. Now, this is definitely neither practical nor knowledge. This is a matter of the heart. Ihsan. And this is what all the awliya and those who are worshippers, they are after this level of ihsan. So this ihsan contains two important elements. It contains, it has the element of spirituality, and it has the element of emotion. Now, of course, this man who was asking the Prophet after he left, because nobody knew him, and he just came in. Now, if he's a traveler, he would not look so neat with so white clothes and the beautiful black hair. No, he will come dusty, he will come sweating, he will come smelling. But no, nobody knows him, and he simply appears. So the Prophet asked Omar, go and see him. After he left the room, he go and get him. He went out, he's not there. So the Prophet told him, this is Jibreel, the angel Jibreel. He came to teach you your religion. So here we are. We can see that the Sahaba have already seen Jibreel in the form of such a handsome man. And we concentrate now on this ihsan. Ihsan contains the aspect of khushu'. It contains the aspect of love. And I would like to talk a little bit about love here. We generally do not bring up our children to love Allah, to look at the side of mercy of Allah, to look at the side of the forgiveness of Allah. In many cases, we use the punishing aspect. A mother would say to her little boy, look here, you silly devil. If you don't listen to mama, Allah will punish you, will throw you in hell. The child has imagination, ability to imagine much greater than others. He will imagine Allah as a very large human being, taller than the minaret of the mosque. And that in front of him there is a fire, and he's holding him by the leg to throw him into the fire because he hit his younger sister and he did not listen to mama. This will be entrenched in his system. All the time, he will be until the end of his life, unless something drastic happens, he will have all the time to think of Allah as the punisher. When he is a child, he thinks Allah has no business but to wait for him to make a mistake and punish him. But in actual fact, when he grows up a little bit and differentiate between the concrete and the abstract and develop, he laughs at the way he used to think of Allah, the way he imagined Allah. But the early impression that he got will never be wiped out. And to me, I believe that this kind of bringing up is the thing that makes young people who are religious very quickly, if they are being tempted to join terrorist groups, they do, because they don't have this aspect of love, of worshipping Allah, loving Allah. All the time it is the other person is wrong and that he should be punished. This like ISIS or whatever they call it today, and also in Nigeria, also there is such a group. All of these, they have gone through such kind of bringing up. So emotions are important, not only to make ibadah complete, but also to bring us up in an adjusted manner, to bring us up optimistically. Unfortunately, there are mazahib and ways of thinking today in the Islamic world that all the time stresses this aspect of punishment of Allah. All the time, haram, you have done this is wrong. And whenever a person has done something, made a big folly, then immediately they consider him bad, he's finished. This is not true. This is not Islam. Let me give you an example here. I have been in Saudi and I hear this quite a lot. There is no love. In Islam, there is no love. There is only following, ittiba'. This is not true. You submit, you follow what Allah says, but you also love Allah. And then they will use this ayah of the Quran. قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِي يُحْبِبْكُمُ اللَّهُ. Follow me, and Allah will love you. The Prophet is saying so. قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ. Now this ayah in the Quran does not speak about against love. It only, in fact, At-Tabari believed that this ayah was revealed to the Prophet concerning the Christians who came to argue with him. They came from Najran, and they were saying, we love God. And Allah says, if you love God, then follow the Prophet, and Allah will love you. But you cannot just say it by word. Now, this aspect of love. Without love, you cannot be a good Muslim. Just imagine, contemplate on the hadith. Nobody will have a real Iman, real belief, unless the Prophet says, unless he loves me, he loves the Prophet more than his own relatives, more than his children, more than his family, more than himself. Nobody can be a full mu'min. So now we really wonder. Here the matter of love is not only a matter of completion of it's a cornerstone. Even Umar ibn al-Khattab, who is known to just to say what he feels without any restrictions, when he heard this Prophet, this hadith from the Prophet, he said, Wallahi ya Rasulullah, I love you more than my family, more than my children, but I cannot say that I love you more than myself. And the Prophet said to him, no, Ya Umar, you cannot be a good full mu'min until you love me more than yourself. And Umar goes around here and there talking about. Then suddenly he started to feel this great love of the Prophet. And he comes, oh Prophet of God, now wallahi, I love you more than myself. He said, it is only now, Ya Umar, that you have completed your iman. So love is actually an order from the Prophet. It's not just for you to expect, and without these emotional aspects, you see, of khushu', of your iman will begin to dwindle and become really dry and rough. So this aspect, therefore, of emotion is important to complete our iman. But now let us see, how are prophets different from us in their emotionality? This is an important thing. And in this sense, what I'm saying here, they are all my reflections, ta'ammulat. It's not something which I am doing research and footnotes. No, I'm just saying what crosses my mind and my heart. Now let us think about emotions in general. How can we categorize it? Yes, we can. There are emotions that will happen to us because we are human beings, created as human beings, with a nervous system, with a brain. We have amygdala in our brain, which works very strongly with emotion. We have this aspect. And here we find that we are shocked. For example, a person suddenly walks in the street and finds himself face to face with a lion. Of course, there is no time here for thinking. It's not a matter of thinking. If you are going to say, to depend only on your rationality and thinking, this is a lion and here I am, and lions can eat up human beings, therefore I should run, and then you run. By the time you finish your thinking, you will be a breakfast for the lion. So these aspects come all of a sudden, and at times, because they are so quick, they may not be completely rational in the way they are. For example, this is done physiologically. It's the amygdala that takes over. In the past, physiologists used to believe, neurologists, that when you see something that will make you afraid, it will go to your cortex, and from the cortex, there will be orders to the adrenal glands to secrete, and you'll be prepared for fight or flight. But actually, now we know that there is this little structure in the brain called the amygdala, will take action very quickly, a fraction of a second before the material reaches the cortex. For example, the popular story is that of a man who was standing in the relaxing in a swimming pool, and then he saw a little child crawling, a baby crawling or a child, and he fell into the water. The man at once dived into the water to save the child. But after he dived, he discovered that he doesn't know how to swim. And then he needed somebody to save him and to save the child as well. This thing is done by the amygdala. You just so here we find the prophets not different from us. Only they are not very quickly they come back, not like normal human beings. But the reaction is the same. Is there anything to support this in the Quran? Yes. Look at Sayyidina Dawood when he was worshipping his special place where he actually do not want people to come and disturb him. And as he was there in locked room or maybe something like this, then all of a sudden two persons suddenly appeared in front of him. This is shocking. And then the Quran says, he was فزع منهم, فزع, this extreme fear. He was quite afraid. This is out of the way he is created as a human being. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said when he saw Jibreel for the first time, the way Allah created him, he became so scared that he came down on his knees, he fell down. And he rushed to Khadija, Zammil, cover me up. This is natural. This is I call this reflexive kind of fear. Look at Sayyidina Musa. Allah tells him, throw your stick. He threw the stick, but the stick started to move like a snake. Then Allah tells us in the Quran that he ran away without looking back, just ran away until Allah called him, Ya Musa, aqbil wa la takhaf, come back, don't be afraid. Inni la yakhafu labbayya al-mursalun. So here we are. These are things that happen all of a sudden, but it is not only with fear, but also with anger, also with all forms of emotions. Just I want you to contemplate about the way the Prophet ﷺ was standing after the battle of Uhud and looking at his own uncle, Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib. He's his uncle, and they were both suckled by the same woman as babies. So he was also his brother. And he loved him so much, but then he looked at him killed. But not only killed, he found that they opened up this woman opened his stomach up and took out his liver, and they mutilated his body. And then all of a sudden, the emotion of sadness about Hamza changed into anger. The Prophet was terribly angry to the extent that for a moment he was like a human being angry for something terribly done against him. He said, if Allah gives me victory over them, I'm going to mutilate 50 bodies of them. But Allah will not leave him alone. After saying this, immediately, while he was still standing looking, the verse of the Quran was revealed to him. وَإِنْ عُوقِبْتُمْ فَعَاقِبُوا بِمِثْلِ مَا عُوقِبْتُمْ بِهِ وَلَئِنْ صَبَرْتُمْ لَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لِلصَّابِرِينَ. If you are to punish, punish in the way you have been punished. It's only one person that has been mutilated like this. So you can only mutilate one person. But if you make sabr, it is better for the sabiri, for those who are patient. So the Prophet said, Nasbir, we will be patient. And he told all the Muslims in the battlefield, nobody should mutilate a body of a kafir at all. Nobody should do this mutilation. So here we can see, in anger, the Prophet first reacted a little bit as out of his himself as a human being, and then immediately he became a prophet. This is where prophets very quickly come back. Sudden pain also causes this. To be subjected to sudden pain, you will react in a reflexive manner quickly. The Prophet ﷺ was after the battle against Hawazin, Taif, when he went for the first time in the history of Islam. There were 12,000 fighters going to fight the. Here in this battle, there are two aspects which we can talk about the emotions as humans or as prophets. Here the Prophet was on his camel. Next to him, just near to him was somebody, one of the Sahaba, who is also riding his camel, but he had in his camel on the side, he bought a new shoes with very sharp seal of it. What do you call it? The bottom of the shoes. Yeah. It is sharp. And the camel, his camel and the camel of the Prophet were almost touching each other. Then this sharp part of the shoe came over the leg of the Prophet. And it was very painful indeed. Just imagine. The camels are going, and this thing was as if it is cutting his flesh. So the Prophet, he had a stick in his hand. Without feeling now, he hit the man with the stick. He hit him and told him, "You have caused me a lot of pain. Move away from me." This is out of the Prophet. This is human. This is a human action. But then the Prophet quickly thought about it. What did I do? I shouldn't have hit him with my stick. So in the morning, he sent for this man. The man came trembling. He thought that the Prophet wanted to punish him for what had done. Then the Prophet told him, "We have already got the bound, the things that we got from the enemy." And he gave him, I think, 40 sheep or a lot of sheep. "I am giving you this because of the hitting that I did to you yesterday." The man was so surprised. He was so happy that this thing has happened. So here I am talking about the reflexive aspect of emotions. The second form of emotion is that in which we think about it. We think. You are faced with a case of that causes you emotion. But the way you answer actually is not reflexive. You think and you take a decision. It is not like the emotion of somebody who becomes all of a sudden very angry, all of a sudden very, or even, I should mention this, or all of a sudden happy. And at times when you are this thing happens reflexively and quickly. At times, the person says things which are out of, are not with contact with reality, or behave in a funny way. Look at Ja'far ibn Abi Talib. When the Prophet told him, "Ya Ja'far, you look like me, physically and spiritually. أشبهتني خلقي وخلقي." My character and the way I look. This was too much for Ja'far to do. It's a very high dose of happiness. And they say when this was said to Ja'far, he started jumping on one leg, jumping around on one leg, the way the Ethiopians do. Because he was in Ethiopia, of course. He was he went to Abyssinia during the time in which the Kuffar were finishing the Muslims. So this is it. Another man, all of a sudden, the Prophet tells us he had his food, his water, everything on his camel. And then he slept under a tree. Then the camel disappeared. And there is no way he will die. He started looking here and there. He couldn't find it. Then he went to sleep again. But when he opened his eyes, he found his camel standing in front of him. He was so happy, so pleased, so until he wanted to say, Allahumma anta Rabbi wa ana abduk. He said it the other way around. He said, Allahumma anta abdi wa ana rabbu. In this, of course, he's almost talking out of his mind because of the extreme happiness. This is reflexive. But when someone comes to threaten you, I'm going to kill you, you will be quite afraid. But it is not reflexive. What am I going to do? Am I going to run away? Am I going to try to reason things with him? Yes, there is no point in killing me. This is all of my money. This is so and so. This is my checkbook. Please don't do this. There is no point in killing me. You are going to maybe because you are going to think about what to do. Run away, fight with him. So here, this I would call it cognitive emotions, not cognitive. Sorry, I will yes, I will call them cognitive emotion. It is not a reflexive emotion; it's cognitive. So quite a number of times we are faced with a condition in which we have to think. Now it is not the amygdala that immediately answers. It is our frontal lobes just behind that, our foreheads here, that we begin to weigh the situation and take the right decision. If someone, for example, you are a very jealous person, and then someone was looking at your wife in a very ugly manner continuously, then what are you going to what are you going to do? Am I going to fight with him? Am I going to forget it and just take my wife and go away? What am I going to do? This is something which depends on cognitive. This is a rational brain. Now, in this, prophets are very different emotionally from normal people. Prophets are not allowed to lose their, because when you are in an emotional condition and such, you are threatened, like Ammar ibn Yasir, when he was told, and let's curse the Prophet, curse Muhammad. If you don't curse Muhammad, we'll punish you. Then he cursed the Prophet. After that, he came to the Prophet and apologized. The Prophet said, it's okay. Since your heart is full of Iman, if they come back to do this to you, also curse me. This is for human beings. For prophets, no. Prophets in this manner can weigh things, and their weighing should be according to their position as prophets of God. Just imagine, look, read in the Quran, a man like, I think it is Dawood, when they came and told him, we are going to kill you, the Kuffar. He said, okay, go and kill me. Kill me. I'm not afraid. Go, kill me. Why? Because he said, ما من دابة إلا هو آخذ بناصيته. There is nothing that crawls on earth that is not in the grip of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah says in the Quran, describing himself, الأرض جميعا قبضته يوم القيامة. The whole earth with what it has is in his grip. والسماوات مطويات بيمينه, and all the heavens under his arm. What can, who can hear if you have this belief? You can see the person who comes to tell you, to tell a prophet that we will kill you, take care. Is that like a person warning you while you are in the zoo? You are in the zoo and the lion is locked, of course. And then he tells you, oh, take care, the lion may attack you, the lion may. You will laugh at him. The lion cannot attack me, in caged. So here we are. They feel if a person comes to tell them, will kill you, or will, then they will have this feeling. Just imagine the Prophet ﷺ, when he was making hijrah and he was in Ghartor, and Abu Bakr with him. Abu Bakr behaves like a human being, normal human being in his emotion. But the Prophet acts like a messenger of Allah. Look at Abu Bakr says to the Prophet, trembling, afraid, if any one of these Kafirin look down at his feet, he will see us. And then the Prophet says to him, Ya Abu Bakr, ma dhannuka bi ithnain Allahu thalithuhuma. Two people and the third is Allah. Why are you afraid? People are after the Prophet to kill him or to get him dead or alive. And they have put a high price for anybody who can get him. He gets into the cave. Then under this condition, people just around the cave, he sleeps. He sleeps. The Prophet put his head on the thigh of Abu Bakr and slept peacefully. And people are outside. So here it is different. The behavior of prophets in the aspect of this cognitive emotion, they are different from us. A third kind of emotion, I speak about 4 types: the reflexive, the cognitive, and now the issue which really makes Islamic psychology different from Western psychology. And that is, we believe in goodness and on good and evil. There are evil deeds and there are good deeds. There are evil people and good people. We believe in this. It is not that for everybody, like, this psychological talk about psychopathy. He is the psychopath. He's a criminal. He's evil. But no, he's a psychopath. Let us treat him. They look at him as a... But then you ask them, what is the therapy for a psychopath? There is no therapy. If there is no therapy, then why are you trying to call him as a patient and try to treat him? Psychopathy is criminality. So here we are. We should be able to differentiate between the two. There are emotions that instigate people, that motivate people to be good, like sabr, like rahmah, mercy, like this aspect of spirituality, al-khushu'. There are emotions of positive emotions. These positive emotions are already built into the Prophet, into their system. In fact, sometimes it is built so strongly that the Prophet can become too merciful. He can become too gentle. Just imagine. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran says to the Prophet, he loves the Prophet, he pities the Prophet. فَلَعَلَّكَ بَاخِعٌ نَفْسَكَ عَلَى آثَارِهِمْ إِن لَمْ يُؤْمِنُوا بِهَذَا الْحَدِيثِ أَسَفًا. You are going to kill yourself, Muhammad, just because they don't believe. Belief is something that comes from me, Allah. It's not, and you cannot feel so sorry and destroy yourself because they do not believe. You have so much mercy on them. They don't deserve it. So indeed, the positive emotions are already entrenched in them. The negative emotions, they don't have it. And some people, scholars, say they can commit saghair, little bits of things which are not serious, small sins. But some others believe no. This is what is called al-isma. Al-isma. The Nabi, the Prophet, is ma'soom.
Salam, Prof. We have 5 minutes more to go. 5 minutes more to go. Okay.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, in these 5 minutes, therefore, I just want to say that the prophets are not only ma'soom in while they are awake, but they are ma'soom even when they are asleep. When we are asleep, we see terrible dreams. And you know what dreams are? Allah says the soul leaves the body during the sleep. And it mixes up. When it goes up there, there are a lot of souls in this atmosphere, in this world. You don't know it. You can't see it. Some of it are evil, some of it are good. They will come and they will mix up with your own thoughts. And the dreams are formed. At times our dreams are wicked, are bad. But the prophets know. Their dreams, no evil spirit can dare to come within the nafs or the spiritual part of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I try to tell you about these 4 aspects. May Allah bless you. Thank you very much indeed. Maybe there are a few things that I will say in the question and answer period.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Jazakumullah khair, Prof. Malik Badri, for very good discussion just now. By the way, the topic for today, psychological reflections on emotional life prophets. And as we know, Prof. Malik Badri from Istanbul, Sabahattin Zaim Universities, AMS UK 2016 Lifetime Achievement Award, and 2020 Person of the Year by Al-Tayyib Saleh Award recipient. Jazakallah khair, Prof. Malik. Now I'm going to invite the response from several panelists. One of them is Dr. Safia Abdul Aziz from clinical psychologist at King Edward Memorial Hospital, Perth, Australia. You are given 3 minutes to say something. Dr. Safia, tafadhal.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everybody. It's indeed a pleasure to meet everybody, especially Prof. Malik. I was his student years ago in the year 2001, the clinical psychology class, which was still my favorite class in UIA, one of the best memories that I've had. It's an honor to have learned with you. And today when I was thinking about this topic, and I was hearing about what you talk about, the emotions of all the prophets. And one thing that struck me is the balance that they had. So the balance of their emotions that they had between the balance of their sabr, their patience, towards facing all sorts of challenges that they had. And while they're having that patience, they also have a lot of shukr, a lot of gratitude, a lot of thankfulness towards Allah. And I find that having that balance being really reflected in the lives of the prophets, especially in Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And another thing that I really take, I work mostly with children. I'm a clinical psychologist in a women and newborn hospital here in Perth in Australia. And one thing that really struck me from the talk is the message that you put out earlier on, which is about sending out the message of love, that Allah is the most loving and the most caring. He is Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim, and that is his name that we say the most. And actually teaching children about Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim first, before Al-Qahar and Al-Jabbar, before teaching that Allah is also a punisher. So again, we are looking at actually the balance between loving Allah and Allah loving us, and also the awareness that there are also aspects of behaviors, like if we do evil deeds, that we will get punished eventually. But in terms of for children, when they are so young and they are free from sin before puberty, definitely the message of love have to be put forth. And I think that's one of the biggest take-home message, especially when reflecting on the emotions of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, about his life and how he treated children. Children were always treated ever so kindly by all the prophets, in fact. And the life of Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the tenderness that he showed children should be a message for us all. I indeed look forward to be reading your book once it's published, Prof. And thank you so much for today's talk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Dr. Safia, all the way from Perth, Australia. I would like to invite, now we go further south, South Africa. I would like to invite Professor Dr. Abdul Fadil Mohsin Ibrahim, Scholar of Islamic Bioethics and Emeritus Professor of Islamic Studies in the School of Religion and Theology, University of KwaZulu, Natal in South Africa. Tafadhal, Prof. Abdul Fadil.
Shukran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Nice to hear from you, Professor Malik Badri. After so long, you've been in South Africa.
Yes.
And I really enjoyed what you presented. Alhamdulillah. And I'm also looking forward to read the whole book, inshallah wa ta'ala, and make it easy for you that you'll be able to publish it, inshallah. Now, the only thing I want to also add here is the question of love. You brought the question of love in the way when the children are being brought up, and then you said, if you don't do it, the mother says, if you don't do that, Allah is going to punish you. And you rightly explained You know, this is eventually what happens is people become terrorists and so on. But then what we have to understand also is that the ulama also falling in the same trap, you know, in the sense that the young people today, like in South Africa, we have the pre-khutbah talk. So they stay out of the masjid until the Salah or the khutbah, the Arabic khutbah is going to be read. Then they come inside. Why? Because they say that these ulama, they are the prophets of doom. Everything they say is about the punishment and so on, and nothing mentioned about love. And I'm glad that you have brought up that point, that Allah is loving, merciful, and so on. It is very important for us to actually recognize that. And as our sister pointed out, that of course the punishment is there, but it is important for us to bring forward, you know, the love of Allah. And this, how can we actually come close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is only through loving Him. If we fear Him in such a sense, then there won't be that relationship. We can't build a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if we do not actually show an element of love in that. So that is very important. Shukran for that. And then what you pointed out about the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, the way he reacted, you know, as a human. And then, but what happened afterwards, you know, being guided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then he compensated, you know, in many ways, you know, for what we understand as a human reaction. And as far as anger is concerned, you know, and the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, you know, trying to tell us and teach us how we're going to control our emotions. He said, if you are angry, then you must, if you're standing, you must sit down. And then he give other ways of, for example, when you should make wudu, you know, this is to control the anger and so on. So, you know, it is really, insightful for us to learn of the many aspects of all the prophets that you're going to, in your book, that you're going to relate to us about the way they actually reflected their emotions as prophets, and also they are not necessarily like human beings. And this I appreciate very much. And shukran jazilan. Wassalamu
Thank you.
alaikum
Wassalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Professor Dr. Abdul Fadil Mohsin Ibrahim from South Africa. Now we'd like Dr. Selvira Draganovic, Psychology Lecturer, Faculty of Art and Social Science, International University of Sarajevo from Bosnia. Is Dr. Selvira is on?
Yes, I am. I'm here.
Okay. Yeah, Dr. Selvira.
Assalamu alaikum, my dear, respected professor. So long time. Yeah, I'm so happy to have met you this way at least, and to listen to you after really, really long time. I'm looking forward also to read your book as well. I just agree with my previous professors, what they already mentioned. Really, so important things that you mentioned today. This is something that I find daily while practicing and doing psychotherapy with my clients, with Muslims especially. The lack of love. Most of them, a lot of my patients have problems and issues with expressing their emotions, thinking that Islam doesn't encourage Muslims to feel, to express, especially to express their emotions in relationships with their children, with their spouses. And then we have lots of issues that we need to treat, and a long path, a long way to go to achieve actually the health in the end. So this is really crucial, the love emphasis, the lesson that we should all take with us today. Going back to what Islam and what our Prophet actually, what was his purpose here? He was sent as mercy to all humankind, and he is the love of Allah. And this is what we should actually take and practice and teach others around us also. This is what Islam is all about. And also other very important point that you mentioned here, these differences in terms of emotional expressions, reflexive emotions, of course, the ones that are very quickly, such as anger. But Islam and our Prophet ﷺ and other prophets also give us a way, teach us how to manage our emotions. We have our source, we have Quran, we have the Sunnah, and we just need to refer to that. And now, inshallah, we will have your book as well. So yeah, we should also keep this in mind, that in terms of expressing our emotions, there are different ways. Some are very quick, very reflexive. Some require us to think, to engage in cognitions before we make a decision. And of course, this also a very important notion that you mentioned here, positive and negative emotions, what the other scholars also in the Western practice agree with this. Particularly speaking about the psychopathy, and this very important, thank you, Jazakumullah khairan, for this. Psychopathy should be actually considered criminal behavior and not put actually as an illness, a disorder that needs to be treated, because we know in practice that it's impossible actually to help them, because they don't see, they don't have conscience, they don't feel guilty about what they do. So Islam also teaches us, and thank you for this important remark in here. These negative emotions that are actually linked or that are motivated by evil, they actually should be put completely aside and considered criminal, and other actions should be taken towards this. So once more, Jazakumullah khairan, barakallah feek for this, and I look forward to read your book and see you soon, inshallah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Savira Draganovic, all the way from Sarajevo, Bosnia, International University of Sarajevo. Now I would like to invite Dr. Mastura, Associate Professor Dr. Mastura Aziz, Kuala of Education of IUM, but he's not in Kuala Lumpur, he's in Oman doing his sabbatical now. Dr. Mastura, it's yours. Can you unmute your mic? I think Shahran, can you help Dr. Mastura unmute mic? Yes, tafadhal.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to do some reflection. Actually, when Prof Malik, how are you? Ramadan Kareem. Actually, I travel a lot with Prof Malik. We go to Indonesia and give some talks, and also in conference, particularly in Islamic psychology. Alhamdulillah, I think I learned a lot from Prof Malik. It's my so-called, and today is Teachers Day, so it's happy Teachers Day to Prof Malik, who is my guru actually. All right. So when Prof Malik Badri talk about cognitive emotion just now, okay, it's remind me of what we call as self-understanding, because people who are able, in terms of the cognitive emotion, the high level in which when someone are able to understand themselves. And of course, our Prophet Muhammad SAW, he fully understands himself, because all these stages from self-recognition, self-awareness, and then later come to self-concept. And later on, it's self-esteem is starting from very young age, from children. So in this situation, our Prophet Muhammad SAW, because he is ma'soom, so that's why when we talk about self-understanding, because he's beyond our level. And yet, talking about the emotion, because as a human, we are naturally given basic emotions such as sad, angry, jealousy, and all those things. We have the negative emotion and also the positive emotions. But at the same time, we are also having what we call as self-conscious emotions. When we talk about self-conscious emotion, this is our problem, because sometimes we cannot really handle this self-conscious emotion. For example, when we talk about anger management, here are something that related to al-kazimin al-ghaiz, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in Al-Quran. Al-kazimin al-ghaiz, those who are able to control anger, meaning to say that we have this emotion, we understand that we have this emotion, but the issue here is in terms of how we regulate our emotion. That's the issue, the same thing. when we feel jealous, for example, this is something natural. This is basic emotion. This is why we need to refer to our Prophet as our role model, because all this, because when we refer to our Prophet as our role model in terms of their emotional life, then we know how to deal with it. The same thing, because our Prophet has empathy, particularly towards children. His kindness towards children is something to the extent that he will shorten his Salah, his prayer, when he saw children, because he doesn't want to hear children cry when they, particularly when parents or the mother, because he said that, I just remember there is one hadith in which he said that innama bu'istu muyassirin walam ub'as mu'assirin, because you want to make things easy for everyone, easy for everybody. So this is something that we really need to learn from him, to the extent that because of his empathy, when he deal with children and he's empathized about children, to the extent that even when children, when children are playing and lost his toys, just only lost his toy. For example, there is a story about Anas bin Malik, and he has his brother Umar. Umar just lost his toy, or in other riwayah said that he just broken his toy, and then our Prophet talked to him and then said, "Okay, ma fa'ala nu'air? What happened to you?" But this is something to show the high quality of emotion comparing to us. And also in terms of his modesty. Okay?
Thank you.
I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Masura, all the way from Oman. Prof. Malik, I have one question from Dr. Sharifah Munira Al-Atas. He wrote here, Salam Prof. Badri, I'm Dr. Sharifah Munira Al-Atas, a political scientist from Malaysia. Do you think it is accurate that the WHO recognize your contribution to world-purpose systematic desensitization therapy under the rubric of traditional medical practice, quote-unquote? Why not novel, quote-unquote, or modern, quote-unquote, or conventional, quote-unquote? This implies a Eurocentric classification which groups your work more under the peripheral rather than mainstream cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. This is a problem with scholarship today, is a rampant in the social sciences, a kind of silencing of non-Western advances in science and social science. Thank you. So further, from Malik, you can conclude and answers to the question.
Yes. Yes, from what I can understand from the question, yes. Is it the question, does it imply that we should develop our own CBT approach, our own form of systematic desensitization as in terms of Islam, in terms of our culture, or not?
No, the Western put your contribution as the not the mainstream, is traditional medical practice rather than a novel, modern, and conventional CBT. So this is from Dr. Sharifah Munira, is the Eurocentric bias towards non-Western advances in science and social science.
Yes, you see, to the Westerners, in fact, I started by studying behavior therapy in the 60s, and my work was one of the very early precursors of cognitive therapy. And my published work in the United States in this in the Journal of Psychology have actually been discussed as a contribution to cognitive behavior therapy in general, without any religious aspect or traditional aspect. And that is even this fellow who came up with modern positive psychology. What is his name?
Aaron Beck.
Yes, Seligman. Yeah, he wrote about my study at that time in the 60s and considered it as a new approach in cognitive in behavior therapy, because at that time it was only behavior therapy, not cognitive came on later on after my. So in fact, I was purely in this field, and I lived with Mayer at the time, with Isaac, met these people, with Marx, with Rachman, who has come up with what do you call it? This kind of therapy, exposure therapy today. I have met Wolpe himself, and in America, and he has he put me as a member in his society at the time, behavior therapy and research therapy. So I must say that I was cautious to first show that I can work with the Westerners at their level. Then I came into the Islamic approach of this, and I think that nowadays the Western world is going towards this. There are a number of factors which is forcing the Western world, the Western psychology, to go into the traditional, to look into the traditional aspect, to look into the spiritual aspect. For one thing, the demise of Freud was the first important thing that we welcomed in order to put us in the right path. The second one is the great development in cross-cultural psychology. All what Freud used to think, Oedipal complex is universal. Every child will have it. This is nonsense. When people went into to study other cultures, they discovered that some cultures affect the way people develop symptoms. It affects the way we plan our therapy. And in this sense, I think that this is an important aspect in putting psychology into its proper way and to accept the Islamic approach in psychology. The third thing is positive psychology, which is coming up now. The fourth thing is the contributions of people like Scott Peck, who wrote The Road Less Travel, and Richard Benson, who spoke about the importance of the psyche on the. In fact, he at that time he was the head of the Mind and Body Institute in Harvard University. I think all of these things have made the Westerners leave this approach of thinking of psychology as a science in which we can predict behavior that we can. No, I think now they are wiser. Now, why do they speak about me probably at one time as traditional or what? Religious. Yes, therapy. Why? Because in fact, at one time, the World Health Organization has appointed me as a member in a committee for traditional medical practices, with emphasis on psychiatry, of course, because I cannot speak about any other aspect, but about my psychological aspects. And they gave me a study to carry out traditional medical practices in psychology and psychiatry in Ethiopia, in Saudi and in the Sudan. I have done this work and wrote a paper on it, and I think that many people who see my name in this field consider me as a traditional psychologist who tries to pull psychology away from the mainstream. I think that we need to make use of the good aspects of psychology. The questioner mentioned systematic desensitization. I have come up with a new form of systematic desensitization. I explained it to Wolpe, and Wolpe was quite impressed with it, but he did not like it. Because at that time, Wolpe wanted to make psychology still based on the stimulus response behavioristic conception. But what I wanted to do in systematic desensitization is to not only use the vertical approach of putting scenes gradually into more anxiety-provoking scenes, but also to go horizontally. After I have desensitized a certain point, then I will ask the patient, please tell me about similar things that happen to you that are similar to this. And then they go. This facilitates transfer of learning. The interesting thing is that the person who trained me in behavior therapy, his name is Victor Mayer. He died already. Victor, when he read my paper, he started to apply to change his method and he mentioned it in his book that Badri used different modalities and so on. So in fact, I think that it is time for us now to break the chains of mental slavery to the Western psychology. And I think we can come up with something quite new. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Malik. Prof. Tahir Khalili from Deputy Rector of University of Islamabad. You want to say something, Prof. Khalili? Are you still there?
Yes, I'm here. To be honest with you, it was a very wonderful talk by Professor Malik Badri, very thought-provoking, intellectually stimulating. I think we should look at this and we should move on to how we can build our own system and to how we can integrate the modern psychology to our Islamic perspective. I think this was the best lecture I have heard, and I pray for the good health of Professor Malik Badri.
Thank you, Prof. Tahir. We reached 5. We're going to end this session 5:30. Prof. Malik, you have 3 minutes to conclude everything. Please.
Fine. Thank you very much. I think in this conclusion, I would just like to say the following. I would like to say that we are in the end of time, Akhir al-Zaman. And we should learn to become more passionate, more forgiving, more loving to people, to sinners. We are sinners ourselves. We do not feel ourselves as different from the. So indeed, I would like to mention that this man, Sahabi, his name is Abdullah, and they used to call him Al-Himar, the donkey, because he was very patient. But the funny thing is that he used to make the Prophet laugh, to make practical jokes, and so on. But he used to take alcohol and get drunk. Every time they bring him to the Prophet, he's given punishment, physical punishment. But then again he becomes, until I think Umar ibn al-Khattab was one of these Sahaba, he said, La'anak Allah, may Allah curse you. Every time they bring you drunk, and the Prophet said to him, don't curse him. He is a man who loves Allah and his Prophet. In another form of Bukhari, he says, this is a man whom Allah and His Prophet love. The Prophet used to punish him in the afternoon, and in the next morning he would laugh at his jokes. We need to. We are in a different. This is the time of the Prophet. It was like this. In our time, please, we need to be compassionate and to try to help and to instill this love and forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to people who go wrong. Thank you very much.
Malik, are you still there?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Jazakumullah khair, Prof. Malik. I think we have wonderful, more than 1 hour session. Prof. Malik from Istanbul. We have brothers from South Africa, from Japan, from Bosnia, from Australia, from Oman, from Uzbekistan, from Bosnia Herzegovina, Islamabad, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Uganda, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, all over the world, mashallah. More than 540 something, I can't recall exactly. I'm sure that we have to do it again, this kind of session where this is a blessing of these guys of COVID-19, where we never do it before, where we meet simultaneously 500 something figures, then we can do it together. And for sure, inshallah, we're going to invite from Malik Badri. We may dua for your health and for all of us in this 23rd Ramadan. May Allah bless us with Laylatul Qadr, inshallah. And we're from IIIT, International Institute of Islamic Thought and Institute Darul Ihsan. By the way, you can visit this either Institute Darul Ihsan website or Facebook. They're going to have a recording, and you can view back those the recording we had with the session we have made just now. So with this, we close with our session with Tasbih Kafara and Surah Al-Asr. Subhanakallah wa bihamdika asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.